I am the face of choice. I am an abortion survivor. I am a twinless twin. I survived something that was meant to end my life. I was born in 1988, and I was adopted by Warren and Barbara Colwell, two people who lived in Texas and could not have children naturally, and so decided to adopt. I couldn't imagine a better childhood. My parents raised me in a Christian home. They laid a great foundation for me and my sister. We knew who we were as adopted children. We were actually really proud of our adoption story. We even found it strange, like when we went to school and kids, maybe that hadn't had exposure to adoption, didn't know anybody that was adopted, they would say things like, "Gosh, we're so sorry that you're adopted." And we were confused by that because to us, adoption was not only our normal, but it was really positive in our home. And we were very secure in that. And so we always knew we were adopted, and we always knew that we had birth mothers. And me and my sister Rachel have two different birth mothers. I met my birth mother in 2009. I was 21 and I'm 36 now. My sister, when she was 17, decided that she wanted to meet her birth mother. And it was great. I had the opportunity to meet her birth mother and had the opportunity to thank her for my sister because I couldn't imagine my life without her. And that got me thinking more about my birth mother, because before that, it was hard to imagine who your birth mother would be and what it would be like to meet your birth mother. And so once I got to see my sister's birth mother and meet her for the first time, I thought, oh my goodness, I have a birth mother too. And she gave me my sister, she gave me my life, she gave me my family, she completed our family. And I thought, I want to meet her. And so I went home that day after meeting my sister's birth mother and opened up the conversation with my family about meeting my birth mother. And we were all so excited about it. We started planning after we called my adoption agency on the phone. We just were so thrilled to meet her. We met the first time in Dallas. My birth mother lives in Oklahoma, and so she drove halfway to meet us. I grew up in Austin, and so that was our halfway meeting point. And we met at a friend's home. And I'll never forget opening the door and laying eyes on her for the first time and seeing, gosh, we looked so much alike and we acted so much alike. And she was actually a nurse and I was studying to be a nurse. And so it was so fun to just meet her. But I didn't get a moment that I really longed for during that first meeting. I really wanted to thank my birth mother for giving me my family and for giving me my life, especially. And I knew that she had sacrificed so much for me. I knew that she was very young when she had me. I didn't know the circumstances behind that, but I just wanted her to know, wow, I am so grateful. You gave me the most wonderful life, the most wonderful childhood through your sacrifice and through your choice to place me for adoption and to give me my life. So we set a second meeting up, and I was really intentional with the second meeting. I wanted to maybe say things that I thought she longed to hear for the past 21 years, because it had been 21 years since she placed me for adoption. Maybe break down the lies that she possibly believed about herself, that she wasn't a good enough mother because she placed me for adoption. I wanted her to know that she was the best mother for me because of what she had given me, because of the family that she had chosen for me, and that I was just so grateful. And so I brought a gift for her, and it was a ring and a necklace with my birthstone on it. And that night I got there and I was able to have a good time with her family and get to know her 3 daughters that she had after me and kept and raised, and just get to be a part of her family, a little glimpse of what it would have been like to maybe even be raised in that house with her. And so that night, things kind of settled down and I thought, okay, here's our moment. And so I got out that ring and that necklace, and with it, I had a card. And on the card, I wrote, for whatever reason, I wrote, "Thank you for choosing life for me." And I signed my name. And I watched as she opened the ring and the necklace, and she cried really happy tears. And she asked me to put the necklace on her neck, and I was actually fastening it as I watched her open the card, and she read what I wrote on the card. Everything changed. I mean, what were happy tears instantly turned into the most sad, most painful tears I have ever seen in my life, still to this day. And as she was crying those tears, she was saying something that just didn't make any sense to me. She said, "Claire, I didn't choose life for you. I'm so sorry. Your life is a miracle." I didn't. I'm so sorry. And I thought, what is she even talking about? I mean, what is she saying? I didn't choose life for you. Your life is a miracle. And then that moment was the most life-altering moment of my entire life, because it unfolded a story that I could have never imagined, I could have never written, I could have never expected to find out when I met my birth mother. And that was that I had survived her abortion procedure. My birth mother, through her tears, began to describe being pregnant with me at 13 years old. And she said that she was alone and that nobody asked her what her choice would have been. Instead, her mother took her to an abortion clinic, and she had a D&E, which is a dismemberment abortion, which is still a very commonly performed late-term abortion to this day, where it tears the baby's body apart limb by limb. It is excruciatingly painful for the woman, like my birth mother. And she said she had this abortion in a room alone with a doctor who never once spoke to her. Instead, just gave her this abortion and told her mother, who had taken her, that her life would go back to normal. But she said it didn't. In fact, her belly kept growing and she kept having morning sickness. And so she went back to the doctor a few weeks later, and the doctor told her that they had made a mistake, because the only way that this was possible was that there were two babies, that I was a twin, and that I had accidentally survived my birth mother's abortion procedure. My birth mother was actually taken to Kansas for a second abortion at the request of her mother after the first one failed to end my life, but successfully ended the life of my twin next to me in the womb. The doctor examined her, and in Kansas, it was legal to have an abortion, an even later term abortion, like she needed, which wasn't available in Oklahoma. And the doctor was examining her, and he said, I'm sorry, I can't perform this second abortion, because the abortion that successfully aborted my twin had ripped the amniotic sac that I was in. And so my birth mother was leaking amniotic fluid for those few weeks that she was still pregnant with me unknowingly. And it could have been too dangerous for her to have that second abortion. And so I actually survived 2 abortion clinics. And my birth mother was then taken back to Oklahoma by her mother. She was dropped off at the adoption agency that was connected to this hospital in Oklahoma City, and she lived there until I was born. When I was born, I weighed 3 pounds, 2 ounces. I had a dislocated hip, and I had club feet. When my parents picked me up, this was correcting the club feet that I had. So as you can see, meeting my birth mother, it was the most shocking moment of my life, as I realized that I was an abortion survivor. I was a twinless twin because of one choice that was made for my birth mother 21 years before that time. And so I realized, in that moment, I was aborted, I was rejected, I was unwanted. And so my world was spinning out of control as I heard what was coming out of her mouth. This picture is when my dad picked me up from the hospital, and you can see the casts on my feet. It's the same cast that I just showed you. It answered a lot of questions for me, but it still was just so unexpected, so eye-opening, so heart-wrenching, especially just to look in my birth mother's eyes. I mean, to see the pain, I can't describe it still to this day, but to see the pain and to hear all that she experienced, all that abortion did to her, what it took from her, what it took from me, just how painful that was, and how her life was never the same, was was so moving and so hard to hear. And so I don't even think I could grasp what that meant for me in that moment, because I really couldn't see past her pain. I couldn't see past her tears. And so it wasn't until I went home really that I began to process, like, what does this mean for me? I am the face of choice. I am an abortion survivor. I am a twinless twin. I survived something that was meant to end my life. I know that at some point, especially the next day after I met my birth mother and I met her mother, and realizing that she probably still to this day does not regret the choice that she made to take her daughter to have the abortion that successfully aborted my twin and was meant to end my life, gave me some feelings of rejection and hurt and being unwanted, and just making that reality that those were my circumstances from even before the moment that I was born, just that I was rejected and I was unwanted. And so that was kind of hard to wrap my mind around, because I had come from such a stable home, such a stable upbringing, where I knew I was wanted and loved and chosen, even adopted. And so, it really did flip my world upside down as I realized, wow, my circumstances behind my birth are the opposite of what I've believed all my life about myself. It was something I could have never expected. And so I think my experience of meeting my birth mother was one of the most painful moments of my life. And I didn't realize that it would be that way. But it also, out of that, flowed the biggest movement of redemption that's ever happened in my life, too. And so I'm extremely grateful for that. My parents were the first people I called after I found out that I survived my birth mother's abortion. I went back into a room in her home that I was staying in that night, and I cried, and I called my parents and I said, this is what I just found out. I found out I'm an abortion survivor. I'm a twinless twin. My birth mother was 13 years old and she had this abortion, and just told them everything that had happened. And they told me, Claire, God's fingerprints are all over your life. He must have a really big plan for you. And that has stuck with me. I mean, the foundation that they laid for me, the words that they've spoken over me, their ability to see the bigger picture of, okay, yes, this is so hard and this is so painful, but God has a bigger plan. God sees the bigger picture. You can choose to trust him, and you can know that he's good. Those are the things that they have spoken over me all of my life, but especially since I met my birth mother. I can say that when I went home and I was wrestling with, like, gosh, this is hard and this is painful, my parents really never said any of those kind of negative things. It was always like, wow, God has a plan. Wow, there is so much hope in the aftermath of despair, because look what God can do. Look what he has done. Look how he has protected you. And so I think just their positivity and trust in God has pointed me towards knowing that God is faithful and that I can trust him and that I can follow him into the unknown, which is exactly what I've had to do, because honestly, who knows what to do when you find out that you survived an abortion? Sometimes I just sit here and think, like, is that really what happened? Like, is this really my story? Did I really survive an abortion? In that same way of feeling confused over the answer of my birth story, I feel confused and conflicted over feeling, in one way, rejected and unwanted, and in another way, feeling overwhelmingly loved and wanted. Before I met my birth mother, I had stopped and asked these people that were standing outside of this building in the town I was going to college in. I was studying to be a nurse, and They would stand outside of this building and they would stare at this building or pray. I didn't know what they were doing, but it just seemed so strange to me. There was always a line of people outside just staring at this building. And so one day I stopped and asked them what they were doing, and they said, well, this is a Planned Parenthood. This is our nation's largest abortion provider. We're here to reach out to these women. We're here to offer them resources and hope and tell them that they're not alone, that they're worthy of walking alongside of. And we're here to point them in places of the direction like pregnancy resource centers or adoption agencies, whatever can help them. And I remember thinking that was great, but I wiped my hands clean, thought, I'll never do that. Then I met my birth mother, and I went home back into my community that never spoke the word abortion. Adoption was our normal. Abortion was not something we ever spoke of. The first time we really spoke of abortion was when I learned that I had survived one. And I was telling people little bit by little bit, telling them my story and what I had found out. And it was just like nobody got it, And so I went back to college and I went back to those people and I said, I just found out that I survived my birth mother's abortion, that I was a twin. And they cried with me, and they introduced me to a former abortion clinic director who had ran that abortion clinic for the past 8 years, and she had just left her job a couple weeks before that, and her story had gone all over the news because Planned Parenthood had sued her in the process. And so I met her and these people that prayed outside of this abortion clinic and this former abortion director. They encouraged me, Claire, you should start sharing your story. I finally did. They asked and asked and asked and asked, and I thought, no way, I'm not doing that. I'm not sharing my story. But they kept asking and they kept encouraging me. And I finally did. And after the first time, I knew, if God asked me to continue to share my story, I will, because I saw just how it humanized the unborn baby. I began to share my story, and through that experience, I was starting to fly all over the country and mainly help organizations like pregnancy centers and adoption agencies, help them raise money to be able to offer the resources that my birth mother didn't have in her time of need that would have helped her choose life for me and for my twin. Because I was a twin, I can say that you are looking at the face of my twin. You are looking at the aborted baby. And I hope that people can recognize the humanity of the aborted baby through the existence of the abortion survivor. Don't women have a right to do what they want to with their own bodies? And my answer to that would be, yes, they do, but I was not my birth mother's body. I was a separate human being inside of her body, but I was not her body. There is that visual picture that people can see through my story. And that is just looking at me and recognizing the existence of my twin and understanding that my twin was a human being that would have grown up to be somebody just like me. What I'm doing today, sharing my story with you, is in honor of my twin. And so through that, I met my husband on an airplane. My husband was a single dad of 3 kids, and he was moving to Texas. He was moving to start his life over, and we became friends. I was very empathetic towards his circumstances. Being a single dad, I was like, way to go. You're doing the right thing. I highly respected that. I acknowledged that. It's not too often you find a single dad who's raising 3 kids on his own willingly. He's coming out of this hard situation, and I'm coming out of my hard situation of meeting my birth mother, and I'm still trying to figure out who am I, and nobody can relate to me. Through that experience, I found myself in my own unplanned pregnancy. And that's how we had our 4th child. We got married, and all of our kids were in our wedding, and it was incredible. So much redemption has come out of our unplanned pregnancy story. But the neat thing is that I can tell people that through my unplanned pregnancy is that I had every single thing that my birth mother didn't have. Everything that she told me would have helped her choose life for me and my twin. And that was the support of the dad, the support of the parents, the support of the friends, and the resources that help her choose life. I had all of those things. It's amazing what God has done through just the traumatic experiences that not just I have had, but my husband has had, and how he wove all of it together for us to become a family. My emotions, even though a lot of them haven't changed, my understanding of the circumstances have. I've also had time to process like my forgiveness for my birth mother. I've chosen, and every day I still wake up and I choose to forgive my birth mother, and I choose to forgive her mother, and I choose to forgive the abortion doctors. I've had an ongoing relationship with my birth mother since I met her. It was very hard for the first few years. We had a very rocky relationship. I think it was just meeting me dug up all this pain and regret that she had from 1987, 1988. She had to go back and relive all of her experiences, all of her emotions, things that she had buried for 21 years. But my birth mother had multiple experiences where she found some type of healing, and where she was able to receive my forgiveness, receive the forgiveness of God, believe that she was worthy of that. And so we have a really good relationship now. We see each other, I would say maybe about once a year or so. We talk a few times a year, and we just really enjoy each other. I think even though there's always that reminder of what happened to her, what happened to us, our relationship is just unique. When we see each other, there's a bigger reminder that we think of, and that is just that we have overcome what abortion has done to us and what it has taken from us. And we've overcome it through choosing to forgive and through choosing to use our story to help others and to educate others and to shed truth on the humanity of the unborn baby, and to shed truth and light on what abortion does to women like my birth mother through our story and through her pain and experience of her abortion. What's so unique is I've been given the opportunity to share my story all over the world for the past 15 years. And so I've been proclaiming, and when you say something enough, you'll believe it truly. And I've been proclaiming for 15 years that I am stronger than my circumstances, that I am wanted, chosen, and loved, and that God sees the bigger picture when I don't, that I am wanted, I am chosen, I am loved, I am forgiven, I'm redeemed, and all the same things God says about every single person watching today, and even about my birth mother, even about her mother, even about the abortion doctor. I think if God calls you to share your story, it can be so very impactful for so many people across the world, so many people who are struggling with humanizing the unborn child, who are struggling with empathizing with the woman who finds herself in a desperate situation and thinks that abortion maybe is her only option. It's just a story that the world needs to hear. But I don't think that God calls every single one of us to share our story publicly. And so I would just encourage you to think about it, talk about it with the people close to you, with your family, pray about it, ask God if that is something that He is calling you to. And then if He does, and if you follow His lead, I think that it can be very impactful and very life-changing for anyone who gets to hear it. Since the moment I found out I was an abortion survivor, it has ruled my life. It has taken over my life. It has consumed every part of me. It is the testimony that God has given me and asked me to share all over the world. 2 times, 2 trips to an abortion clinic, they tried to take my body. They tried to end my life by dismembering it just like they did to my twin. But they will not take my voice. I will continue to speak in honor of my twin who deserved to live. and in honor of my birth mother who deserves so much better than abortion.